is Real to Real Podcast. Real stories, real sport. And here's your host, Ube Gabre.
That we're about to have on the show. I've been following this young man, and it's crazy because I was at University of Richmond Stadium when he was a player against Patrick Henry in that state championship game in Richmond. And now to see this young man evolve into a great guy, a coach, he's impactful in his community, one of the most respected and hardworking and prideful gentlemen in the 757, if not the whole country. He's a great coach you'll ever meet. You know, he won a state championship, like I said, as a player, an assistant, and a head coach. And I've been waiting for him to get that chip as a head coach. It put a lot of pressure on him to come on the show, man. But he finally got it most recently. And I'm just honored and humbled to have my man, head coach of the Phoebus Phantoms, Mr. Jeremy Blunt. Coach, thank you so much, my man, for coming on. I know you're busy, brother. Thanks for fitting some time in for me.
Oh man, listen, it's a pleasure, man. I'll tell you what, I'm actually looking forward to this. We talked this into existence a few times, so I appreciate you speaking this thing into existence.
That's right, man. Like I said, I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and let's just start where it all began for you, Coach. Hampton, Virginia. You went to Phoebus High School, but what was it like growing up in Hampton and just evolving as a young man to get ready for high school?
I'll tell you what, man, it's pretty interesting, like the process leading up to this point, man. As a youngster, man, I frequently look back and share with my players, and I laugh a lot, man, thinking about, especially when I see some of the younger kids that are on almost a daily basis up there at the school, riding their bike around the track during our football practice, hitting the hills, throwing the football around, and during our practice time. And it trips me out because that was me as a 7-year-old kid. I was up there watching my older brother practice, and I was a kid that was up there looking for the tennis balls, anything that I could do to occupy my time while he was at practice, and to come full circle, end up playing at Phoebus. I knew for it without a shadow of a doubt what high school I was going to play for. We kind of moved around a lot when I was little, but I always told my mom, no matter where we were, I was going to play at Phoebus. And, so, because, watching those guys when I was a little kid, I looked up to them, and so many names, Jamel Dennis's, Tory Edge, so many guys that have come through that system, so many great names, man. I just knew I wanted.
There's so many you're gonna miss so many.
Oh man, I don't even like naming names because it's not fair, But so I mean, it was humbling, man. It was humbling being that little kid and watching those kids now. So, it was an honor to start off at Phoebus as an 8th grader and to be a part of that JV system, and then my freshman year, get an opportunity to get what we call around there, which is still a tradition to this day, a white shirt. And if anybody that's a former Phantom that has worn a white shirt, they all understand what level of prestige comes with that. It means that you've done what you needed to do to show the coaches that you are worthy of dressing with the varsity and having an opportunity to compete to get on the field, whether it's special teams or just, some mop-up time at the end of the game. And as a freshman, I had my white shirt, and I was so excited about that, and then to turn around my sophomore year and start varsity, out of position, playing, moving from a linebacker. I probably was always a safety in high school, but moving from a linebacker to defensive end as a sophomore and starting and leading a team in sacks, man. I mean, I'm talking about some names that, I was able to this little old guy was able to push some guys, and get better because of the talent that was around us and the motivation and the leadership that was around us. It was just great, man. It was just great playing with some great players that I had the ability to play with.
You talked about getting there as an 8th grader, playing as a 9th grader, starting as a sophomore, but the stories I hear about, I didn't get a chance to actually meet Coach, the late great Bill D, but I can just live through you guys, the stories that I heard about him. What was it like? I mean, I know you heard stories, before you got there, but when you actually got to Phoebus and played for Coach Bill D, what was that like?
I'm gonna tell you what. Number one, it was certainly an honor. You kind of, if you weren't talking about Mike Smith or Coach Newsome, or at even before Coach Kozlowski, everybody knew Coach D. And he was the coach right there off of Island Road. That was, hell on wheels, man. I mean, he was coming at you full steam, ready to go. He knew how to reach and push. And so seeing him face to face, I was kind of like in awe. And, I didn't want to disappoint him. And so like so many of us, we just didn't want to disappoint him. So, it was, you play for a coach, but a coaching staff that was just great. They were great at what they did, man. They knew how to prepare us and get us ready, and all the way from the basics to getting you prepared for, during the off-season process. Those guys are really special at what they did.
Oh man, like I said, you just, as so many other people, Coach, they've told me so many great stories about that man, and I know it was an honor and a privilege for you to play for him. So you probably learned a lot, and we're going to talk about that later, the different philosophies you learn from different coaches. But going into your senior year, Coach, you know the history of Phoebus. Obviously, you followed them since you were little. They never won a state championship. So for you to what was the mindset going into that senior year? Did you guys have an opportunity? I mean, did you guys think, okay, we got a chance to win this chip this year? Or was it just, let's just grind and see what happens?
There are so many teams prior to my senior year that were worthy of a state title, man. And I mean, they had the ability, they had the mindset, and, little things would come through, little things would stand in our way, whether it was us in the locker room or before I got there, whatever the case may have been. It could have been a dominant player, a dominant team that they faced, or just some balls bouncing the wrong way. Who knows? But what I'll tell you was, my senior year, as good as we played, there's so many great teams that had come before us and were standing toe to toe with the great ones and had an ability to win it. I think what the difference was that year, because I don't want to say what separated us, you got to be real careful when you start, because it's a lot of greatness out there that come through that historic program. I think what the difference was my senior year, a lot of us started as sophomores, and our sophomore and junior year, we played for two teams that had just missed the playoffs, and nowadays these kids don't have an idea what it's like, man. Right. I mean, you can lose 5 games and still get into the playoffs with the way this new alignment is.
Crazy.
Man.
It's crazy. You're right.
Back then, man, if you lost one game, you weren't going to see the postseason. Done. And you were at home early. And my sophomore year we lost 2, and my junior year we lost 3. And rightfully so, we were at home. And I can remember us as seniors, we just made a decision that we were going to do what we needed to do to get over the top. And coaches didn't coach any differently. They didn't prepare any differently. There were no different sets of, motivational speeches coming to us in and throughout practice time and things like that. Nothing changed. Those guys were ultimate preparers. They knew how to get you ready for that season and for each game. But it's something about when you believe, man, and that there is so much power in belief. And I'll talk about that a little later, because I'm sure you'll ask about this state championship team. I saw there are a lot of parallels between my senior year and this year. And when you believe, man, and it doesn't matter if you've done it before or not, just believing and willing to push and having the audacity to push and the courage to push. I mean, that made that season, that 2001 football season, an extremely special year, because we had no doubt that we weren't going to lose. We weren't going to take no for an answer.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you had Hampton and Bethel won a couple before you guys got one. And I have to mention this, man. Like, I know those practices were like almost as better as the games you played on Friday and Saturday. I mean, you had so many great players that were with you, that were, in your class and behind you. So my next question is, how much did that prepare you for the next level? I mean, you had a decision to make after that state championship to go to college. So how much did those practices with those great players on that team prepare you for college?
I mean, you know what, man, it was everything. Our practices were, like you said, they were like games. If you didn't start offense, but you were start on defense, you were going to be on that scout team defense, because you were going to give the offense the best look, and vice versa. If you were a starter on defense, if you were a backup on defense that started on offense, you're going to be on that offensive scout team working us. And, pretty much our entire offensive line was one way. Our defensive line and our O-line, they were almost one way as far as the starters were concerned. So every day in those trenches, man, it was war. It was war. I mean, I can remember plenty of times my center, Alan Pavlik, having to deal with guys the likes of Michael Littlejohn at your interior, Shadeed Harris, Michael Littlejohn, who went to Hampton University, Shadeed Harris, who went to Syracuse, Xavier Debe, who went to Virginia Tech, and Tweety McWright, he was our other weak side defensive end, who was an extremely important component to our defense. And then myself at inside linebacker with Michael Dixon and Jason Hall and Vernon Lee at outside backer. We were in the trenches all day dealing with the starting offensive line for one of the premier programs in the state for, at the time, at that point in the season, getting towards that playoff push. Rushing yards, we were running it. We were killing it. Our tailback rushed well over 2,000 and some yards, with the backup rushing well over 800 yards. So we were putting in a level of work that was amazing. Our guys were amassing yards that were spectacular. We had to battle that every single day, so it prepared you. It prepared us for that run, man.
All right. So you move on, Phoebus, the junior class, ended up winning a state championship the next year. So you go to St. Aug, Coach. What was the mindset and the decision making behind going to St. Augustine and down in North Carolina?
Well, I have 5 other teammates that I was at the time undecided. I had a couple of Power 5 opportunities. North Carolina State was a school that I so desperately wanted to go to. They had offered me. I don't know if you remember what a Prop 48 is, if you ever heard it. At the time I was offered. And this is why I'm so big on academics right now with our guys. I mean, in the classroom, I was solid, but I did not have the SAT score that I needed. Right. And I was some points off. And, I had taken it a few times. I knowing what I know now, I wish I would have taken it earlier. Right. In my career, my high school career, to give myself a better opportunity. I was not, like so many, the best test taker back then, but the things that you learn. So, I ended up not having much guidance behind me. We've never been through this before. My family, man, my mom, my dad, we didn't know much. And my worry was being propped that I would be a part of a program that for an entire year, I'm not a part of. I'm school thing by myself. I'm working out by myself. It's just me down there handling my own business and not having enough understanding, not having enough guidance to direct me and encourage me. And not saying that I didn't get great encouragement, because I did, but just not having that knowledge, man. I ended up, 5 of my teammates say, hey man, look, St. Augustine and, right there in Raleigh, 5 minutes away from where you want to go. They just offered us, and, won't you think about it? Won't you come? And sure enough, Coach Costa, who is a good friend of mine now, who's, coach I love dearly, my college coach, he's from the area, coached at Hampton University. He had just got the head job, and he told Coach D he would love to have me. He said, awesome, man, hey, I can get a steal on all these champions right here. I want to get them. So
for sure,
we went down there 6 deep, man. We went down to North Carolina to help get that program started 6 deep, man. It was met a lot of great people, man, but God orders your steps, man. And it's a reason for everything. And I wouldn't change my walk for anything.
Yeah, the Prop 48, when I was coming along, it was a lot of my buddies ended up doing the Prop 48 thing, where you lose a year, but now if you graduate within 4 years, you get that year back. So Prop 48 was a big deal when I was coming up. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So you eventually go to HU, Coach. You graduate from HU, and this is the part I love. I want people to listen to. You graduate from HU, and then you get into mental health after college, right? So, I mean, you play football your whole life, and then you have to transition into, the workforce. Talk about that transition. How hard was that, or how much of a seamless transition was it for you to go from football to, the business world in mental health?
So I actually started with Agape Therapeutic Services in their day treatment program, and I found my calling, man. I mean, I had coached rec league football prior to graduating from college. And when I got to Hampton University, I tore my knee up, coach rec league football. So working with kids was something that I enjoyed doing, and I was like, man, this is something I could see myself doing. I just enjoy working and giving back to the community. And so I worked with the Kappa Cardinals. my mentor, who was also deacon of my church and my fraternity brother, Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yes, sir.
He got me involved, and, I never looked back. And then I graduate and I get an opportunity to teach. And I taught as a kindergarten teacher. And then I was phased out. Newport News was going through phases. I was phased out, of course. First in, first out, last in, first out type of deal. And which was fine because I was blessed with an opportunity to coach at mental health day treatment program. And I'll tell you what, man, you really learn some things, and you start to learn more about yourself when you're put in a position to pour into others. And working with the youth and, in and throughout the schools, Phoebus ended up being my base where I was housed at, myself and 3 other mental health professionals. And I'll tell you what, man, we got there in 2009, and, I started coaching in 2009 and that season. So when I get there, I'm coaching and then I'm in the building. Right. So it just made sense, man. It made sense. And I really enjoyed doing that, pouring in, and I learned a lot about myself and, how to actually properly work with the youth and things like that, man. It's an experience that I wouldn't take that away for nothing.
I mean, you're impacting kids off the field as well. That's what I love the most. It's like, you can coach them on the field, but they still have to, they don't play, they're not on the field forever. You know what I mean? And I love the fact that you're doing it outside the classroom, and especially now, Coach, with mental health and everybody, coming out, even these pro athletes are coming out saying they have a problem and they're acknowledging the fact that they need help. And I think that's huge, to have a lot of these athletes come out and say, hey, look, I make all this money, but I still need help. I still have issues like everybody else. And that's why it's so important. I wanted you to talk about that because, you're talking about kids, a lot of these kids that come from these different backgrounds, you know what I mean? They don't understand, like, and Coach, a lot of them are coming from situations they can't control. They just there. And you do a lot for these kids in this community. And that's why I really wanted to have you on, man, because I watch you from afar. I'm a huge fan, and I wanted you to come on here and talk about that. Of course, football too, but I just love what you do off the field as well, Coach. And I just want to let you know that. But let me ask you this. You're in the building, you're an assistant coach at that point. Are you thinking head coach? You thinking mental health's my calling? I mean, what's your whole deal at this point? You just kind of going with the motions in terms of coaching? Did you eventually want to be a head coach, or you just want to do it at the time being?
Man, the thought of being a head coach on the high school level never crossed my mind, man. I'll be honest with you. The experience that I was gaining working under these men, so many of them were former head coaches from Coach D's tree. And, I mean, you're talking about some guys, man. Stan Sexton being the head coach, he's a guy. Greg Narvin, he's a guy. Greg K. Richard Van Dyke, Jerry King, Alonzo Coley, you're very familiar with them. TJ Shields, Anthony Robinson.
Yeah, all those guys, man.
We're all working together, man, shoulder to shoulder. James Holbert, and I'm hoping I'm not missing any, but I mean, the staff that was intact when Coach Sexton came on, and of course I came on. Funny story, man. So Coach D finally decides, and I'll get back to the point that I was making about the guys that I worked with. So when the announcement came out that Coach D was going to retire, Coach D, when I moved back here and started attending Hampton University, when Coach D found out I was back in the area, I tore my knee up. He had reached out to me. He was like, hey, man, I'm still in college now. He's like, what do you think about coming over and coaching my outside linebackers? And so I thought about it, and I said, Coach, how much time do I have to think about it? Coach D is the type of guy, when he brings you something, you got to be all the way in with him, number one, and he needs you to be extremely transparent. But he wants what he wants. Make no mistake about it. So I said, Coach, listen, man, I'm a young married man. My son at the time was 3. No, he was 2. My oldest son was 2 at the time. And I was like, give me a day, Coach. Let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife. Let me see how this would complicate things. So, or if it would complicate anything. So, put some thought into it. Called her back the next day. I said, hey, Coach, listen. I want to work. I want to coach. I do. But I know if I can't pour that time in the way that you need it, if I'm not all the way in, if there's a foot that's out or a half a foot that's out, You know, we're both going to be compromised, and that's not who we are. We are all in type of guys. So I'm gonna have to pass right now. Coach D inquiring about that is actually what got me into coaching. Now, the time that I would have needed to be at practice just didn't work with me in school and what I was working and my job and things like that. But coaching rec ball, later time frame, you know, it worked. So a few years later, he reached out to me again. I said, Coach, you know what, man, I'm not gonna be able to do it, you know. And it's like, man, that's twice I done turned my guy down. After that 2008 championship, you know, not too long after, whenever his announcement came out, you know, I reached out to him and I said, man, Coach, you know, you had called me twice, and you know, and I denied it twice, and you know, just because of the timing and everything, and you know, I was ready to come on this year, man. I graduated from college, you know, that's by me, you know. Man, I would love to be a part. I would have loved to have been a part of it, but you're going on. He said, well, I know who the head coach is going to be.
He already knew.
The head coach is going to be. And he said, you do too. And so, you know, he was like, don't worry, you'll be out there. And then so getting out there and being with those guys, man, I learned so much, man. I learned so much. You know, when I tell you that God orders your steps, man, like I said, I'll get back to that preparation piece, but God ordering your steps, man. I wanted to go because I had the ability, and you know, and I wasn't nowhere near as good as so many great ones that have come through our school. So I don't even put myself on that level. But I was a good athlete and I could play, and you know, I had an opportunity. And if I would have taken a Prop 48, you know, at North Carolina State, I would have been playing there. But I ended up going to a Division II school, St. Augustine's College. But my defensive coordinator, and this is what I wanted to get to. My defensive coordinator was Andre Waters. Andre Waters played in the NFL for so many years.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, sir. Buddy Ryan's system, man.
Ryan, yeah.
People talk about, you know, defensively, I am a defensive guy because of this man. I mean, I played his position. I played strong safety, and what he required from all of his defensive backs. But most importantly, he would always tell me, Blunt, you play my position. You are me. I'm your defensive back coach. Your responsibility is to know everything that everybody on that field is doing. If any checks must come through you, any and all checks must come through this position, you know? And so there was a lot of responsibilities put on a young 18, 19-year-old group of kids coming down to play ball for him, man. And so getting around the coaches now at Phoebus, fast forward and being an assistant coach, you know, I came in with what I knew from learning at Phoebus, taking that culture, that tradition, you know, and taking that with me to college. And then what I learned from a Coach Costa, Andre Waters, and being able to take that and now piece that together. And now here's my level of influence that was poured into me to get me to where I am. And then getting back around these guys, man, and just learning the ins and outs from the beginning, how to put a curriculum in place, how to start your off-season regimen with a step-by-step process, how to build goals and objectives, man, how to identify and you know, each player's weaknesses and strengths and be able to build them up into what the expectations are for this upcoming season. The level of preparation and details that went into it. I'm telling you, man, being around that staff was a special thing. You know, Coach D, Coach Sexton, I mean, they ran something special, man. And
I know.
So being an assistant coach, I learned so much from all of those guys, and I love to pick all of their brains. That was very important to me, man. There's Sunday meetings, asking questions, and here again, me knowing what I knew, going into it, learning what I had learned. I was like, man, you can think you know something and be so far away from it, man. And I just learned so much, man.
And then you probably, I mean, like I said earlier, you probably taken so much from all your coaches and incorporated it into your system. But let me ask you this. How long does it take for you to know if a kid has it? Because, you know, Phoebus, man, they got some dogs that come through there. But when do you know that a kid, that you don't have to motivate the kid as much? You just know, you just got to put him in the right spot to do his thing. Is it, I mean, when do you, as a coach, do you know if that kid, as soon as you see him on the field or practice, do you know if he has that it factor?
Some kids come into it, man, and you can see it right away, man. I mean, with the way they walk, with the way they talk, you know, with the way they approach their you know, the workout, their preparation leading up to the workout and their preparation after the workout. You know, some guys just have that thing about them Then other guys, you can see it, those that are rough around the edges, they're kind of, they just need to be polished up a little bit. You can see that just with a little fine tuning, man, just some purpose, focus, work that's going into building that, taking that weakness and making it a strength, and taking that strength and, making it something that you can literally hang your hat on, that they're going to be something special. It's something about, man, when you can get those kids early, man, and they become they're those system kids,
Right,
and we've
right.
benefited from some great transfers.
Oh, man.
Make no mistake about it. I mean, some excellent transfers, but we have this thing at Phoebus that we do, man. We love an unfinished product. I mean, that, like, to take a kid as an 8th grader and have him in your system for 5 years, and it's a lot of times when, people can look at our program and they're like, man, they don't rebuild, they reload.
That's what it is, man.
That philosophy comes from taking that unfinished product as a young kid that's coming in raw, and you can see it. He's raw, but he's got that thing about him, but he just needs to be polished, and taking him through that system, 8th grade, freshman, sophomore. By the time you're a sophomore in our system, man, if you're not starting, then you're behind. We believe in playing you early. And it's because of what I'm saying right now, because we like that return investment. Right. And that it factor, you see it early on, man, because we benefit from getting kids at such a young age. You can see it, man. Who's got it, who might have it, and who's going to be that strong supporter all the way through, like your rock solid role players. And all of those different dynamics are important. All of them putting a solid team together. They're all important.
I mean, it's crazy because you just off the top of my head, Romero, Caleb Taylor, the list goes on and on. All these guys start as night, like, where they come from? But like you said, they've been in your system for 2 or 3 years. They're ready to go by the time they're sophomores, and they're all interchangeable. One guy graduates, the other guy comes in, he got a different number, looks just like the guy that just left. It's crazy, man. Okay, so you get the head coaching job, coach, and then you start to build your program under you. There had to have been some emotional attachment to that, being the head coach at this point. It's your program now. Your kids are under you. What was that like, that transition from assistant coach to head coach?
Man, I tell people all the time, man, it was like changing a culture within a culture, man. You got to understand, man, your head coach, we're working on our 5-peat. Coach Sexton is in place, and we end up going.
Say that one more time. A 5-peat, everybody. He didn't say repeat. He said 5-peat, bro.
We're going into the 2012 season.
Wow.
I was named defensive coordinator. Coach Sexton and the program, we're working on our 5-peat. Starting from that 2008 year, Coach D's last year, he retires. Coach Sexton, the new staff, the staff is in place under Coach Sexton's title and of head coach, and he came in and hit the ground running, man. We ran off 9, 10, and 2009, 10, and 11. And, so that's a 4-peat right there from the 08. So that 12 year, man, we had the ability to repeat. I mean, to hit that 5, man, break a VHSL record at the time, and we were looking to do it, man. We were looking to hit it. We were looking to hit it hard, man. And, so your head coach at the time is removed. And now here I step in as the assistant coach and become the interim head coach. And so we get to the 2013 season and they name me outright head coach. Well, coming in, one of the first things that I knew I needed to do, I pretty much have a brand new staff. There were only a few coaches from the previous staff intact. So I'm having to teach guys that aren't some guys that are coming in and taking on some significant roles that don't really understand our culture here, our history here. Then you have the younger generation coming up that had played a role in that 2011 state championship year, whether it was scout team guys or, getting an onside kick as a special teams kid. They're now in a position where they're being asked to bring it back home, and that entitlement feeling started kicking in, man. One thing about it, man, winning can bring on a number of things, man. It can bring on, it can bring on everything positive that comes with it, but it can also bring on some complacency, man. And I believe that for a while, our program had fallen under that level of complacency. You know what I mean? Now, being a head coach, I'm energetic. I want to win. I'm a winner. That's what I've always done there, as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach, nothing was going to change. But it was so much that needed to change, man. Character needed to be rebuilt, integrity needed to be intact, getting emails from teachers in the school building was a no-go for me, man.
Yeah.
And, because I was those young men that I'm now coaching.
Yep,
I
totally.
walked
Yep.
in their shoes, man. I was that kid that lived not too far from the school, that knew what it was like to go home to no electricity, maybe.
Right.
Maybe sometimes the water wasn't running, and so I was a product of their environment that they're living, circumstances that some of them were living. I understood. So for me, I'm like, man, listen, we got to do this thing the right way. Right. We got to clean ourselves up. Teachers reaching out can't be the thing. It can't be a question whether or not we're students first or if it's just football. So there were some things we had to clean up, man. And when you start to factor in that level of entitlement that we knew when we lined up that people were just going to lay down, that's what the thought was, because we were, we achieved, but we underachieved in a large sense, because so many of those guys, those teams throughout those years, man, that could have won, but we just
so close.
We were so close, but it was certain things we didn't do with one another. We didn't buy in to one another all the way from the locker room standpoint. If you got a concern or a question about your brother being loyal, then those things play a role when you're facing an opponent on Friday nights. Those things come into play, man. So, and football is a very unique sport in that sense, where those things all need to be intact. So, coming in as a head coach, man, we hit the ground running, but it was so many different things we were working, man. And it became a year by year thing, throughout that track from 2013 to present day.
I got to ask you, I know a few people have asked you this year, you know the pressure that comes along, not only a head coach, but at Phoebus. I mean, you're expected to win every year. And if you don't win a state championship, everybody's is all in your head. Did it ever get, I guess, frustrating for you? I mean, listen, you could go, you could lose 2 games and everybody else is celebrating. But at Phoebus, if you don't win the state championship, it's a lost season. So was it ever frustrating for you to hear all that? I mean, I know you hear the noise and you're the type of guy that's going to just brush it off, but did you ever kind of feel pressure and feel a little frustrated by, the expectations that were part of that?
Hey, man, I'll tell you, man, in preparing for, our discussion today, I did something that I don't do, man. My wife from time to time, because she understands me as a person, she would put certain things in front of me, to reassure me, prior to my mom passing, she would as well, so my wife and I, just kind of going over some things in preparation for today, since 2012 interim year to current day, she had asked me to just look at your record. Have you ever looked at your record, things that you guys were able to accomplish? Because I'm gonna get to what you're asking about.
No, go ahead.
So I did it. We looked at it, we wrote it down, and between 2012 interim year when I took over, which was mid-season, the Bethel game, that was my day one interim head coaching. That was my come out essentially to now. My record and expectations are high, and even for myself, being a product of that school, even for myself, record is 102 with 19 losses. Come on, and man. That 19 pisses me off still. That when we put it down, that's what I wanted to get at. Like, 19. That's all I could look at. I was like, man. She was like, babe, but wow,
that's amazing, bro.
It's been 10 years and, you already have over 100 wins. And I'm like, yeah, but 19 losses.
That's gonna stick with you. Yeah.
Because I could think about what those losses meant. Those losses between 2014, let me say 13 and 14, those losses were major round 2 losses, to 2 opponents that together, but from 2015 to the spring season of what was the 2020 season, but ended up being spring of 21, every team that we had lost to won a state championship. So I start thinking about those losses, between 2015 to 2020, I'm like, man, every team that had beaten us, we were their measuring stick. So when you ask me about expectations, it got rough around there plenty of times. I had to have good people in my corner to keep me on, I'm sure, because I'm sure the community had reached out like, man, get rid of this guy, bring Stan Sexton back. I mean,
you know how it goes, man. You know how it goes. People just talk.
I embrace it. And I'm okay with it. One thing about it, man, growing up how I grew up, man, listen, my father is Black, my mother is white. Mm-hmm. So right there coming out, my back was against the wall. Right. I got two sides of the fence right now with my family, and they all embrace and love. And I only know one thing, but then you start to go and visit and you start to learn that, okay, from my mother's side, it became interesting for my brother and I at times. You understand? Mm-hmm. Yep. So we only know one thing, and that's adversity. We take it on, chin high, eyes beamed in, we're locked in, ready to go. I'm an intense guy. So, I have thick skin. Hearing things like, hey, coach, they the fans, some of the fans like, man, we need to get rid of you. I'm like, hey, listen, man, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, man. I'm a winner here. I know what it's like to win, and I understand what they're all calling for. They want to win the big one. I know what it's like to be a part of winning the big one as a player. So I know how important that is, so it kept my goals intact. That pressure, I didn't fall under the pressure, fall victim to the pressure. I embraced it. I only knew one way was my point, and that's adversity. You take it head on and take the bull by the horns and go get it. And that's how we went about it, man. So, 102 victories to 19 losses that's a great start, It
is a great start. Absolutely.
But it's also humbling because you recognize those losses, what else was missed with that, and so that fired us up going into this season. That understanding of since 2015 to spring of 2021 spring season, which was the 2020 fall season. That 19 pisses me off still. That when we put it down, that's what I wanted to get at. Like, 19. That's all I could look at. I was like, man.
And this is when I knew you were a real one, bro. Like, that press conference, dude, that hit me, bro. Because, like, you were a stand-up guy. You said straight up, man, we lost. We got respect for our opponent. And I could just see it in your eyes. You weren't defeated. You know what I mean? It was just like more of a defiance thing. Like, look, man, we're going to be back. We're going to always be back here. But that just stuck with me, Coach, because like I just remember seeing you in that press conference after that loss in the state championship game. And it's crazy because you came right back. I think your receiver number 4, KK, came back and was like, he was a freshman and he's a senior and wins a title. And I remember this last state championship on how you just said, look, we had to just play the course and get back. But I just remember that press conference. I was like, man, this guy, I'm sure you're hurting, but you just had that look on your face. Like, look, we're going to come back here. We're going to keep grinding, going to keep working. And that's what you did to get that title. So getting the title finally, bro, like I could see it. I saw the celebration. I saw everything. Was it more of a relief thing or were you excited? I mean, what goes through your mind winning that? Because we talked about the pressure and the expectations. So was it more of a relief or you? I know you had to be excited too, but
if I could set this up in 30 seconds before I answer that, what I would say after that loss in the 2018 season, before that press conference, I broke the boys down, and they were all waiting on me, so much so that they brought Coach Bradley and the guy, the state champions at the time, which was first, the press conference first. It should have been me. Now I'm the first as a head coach to lose one. That's deep. That has been my drive since 2018, and that has been a quiet, personal. I can share it out loud now, outside of that bubble that I shared that with. But that was my drive. So to now, fast forward, losing my mother in September of 2020.
Man, rest in peace. I'm sorry to hear that, Coach. I
appreciate that.
What happened?
Oh yeah, and anyone that knows my mother knows that she was at every game as a player.
Every game.
Yep. Every game as a coach. Before I was a head coach, as an assistant coach with my wife and my family, my children, my mom was right there, and you can hear her. I mean, I put on some old YouTube videos of old games, and I can hear my mother yelling genuinely. And I'm being serious.
Awesome, man.
So
awesome, man.
It was when Jalen Mayo catches that interception, it was so many different emotions going on because I mean that the way that game ended, the way that game ended, man. I mean, fourth quarter, 8 minutes left in the game. My team, they're looking at coaches are like, Coach, I mean, are we going for it? You know, we're around the minus 47 yard line or so, I want to say. And it's like 8 minutes left in the game. And it's a tie game at the time, 14-14. And, you know, coaches are like, Coach, what are we going to do? We're going for it. And the players, you know, kind of running off. And I gave the signal to punt. And, you know, the players were kind of running off. And I could hear the fans. Everybody's like, yo, what's going on? And I remember grabbing a few of my leaders that were on the offensive side and said, listen, trust the defense. We're going to make a play on defense. You just got to trust the defense. And sure enough, man, you know, we punt that ball off and they get it. And, you know, second play of that drive, that kid breaks and he breaks a long one, but it was a clear holding call. Yeah. And I just got to commend the officials, man. It was a well-called game. And I've been on the side back in 18 where it was not a good called game. Right. And it's okay. I mean, it comes with the territory. But this go round, this official, this crew, well-called game. They called that thing back, clear holding. You know, a few plays later, Donald Gatlin, you know, he levitates maybe about 12, 13, you know, feet off the ground, man.
He did. He was high. He was up there.
Kid catches an interception, and I feel like I'm in a movie. I feel like I'm witnessing something that, you know, those Disney movies and things, you know, being the underdog and what it's like to win a ball game. And I'm watching this play out. You know, as I'm coaching, you know, it's like an outer body experience. I'm watching this all play out, man. And I see this kid catch this ball and run into the tunnel. And, you know, I'm like, man, I'll take that penalty. And then the kid having the wherewithal when, you know, we had missed the extra point. You know, we're only up at the time by 6.
Great play call, Coach.
And this kid, I can't take credit for it, man. Let me tell you, when your kids believe and they are well coached, let me tell you, we talk about situations and process. You know, Donald is looking up he's looking at our place kicker and he's like, hey, they're going to be coming after it, man. And they both look up at the flags. And the boys are walking me through it a few days later. And it's amazing hearing their perspective. And the wind is just, I mean, it was like a monsoon out there.
Yeah, it was bad. The weather was bad. Yes, sir.
So Donald said, hey, Kelly, just step through hard, man. We're going to sell this thing. Kelly does it. Kelly takes the contact. Donald picks that thing up and just literally walks into the end zone. Yes. We go up by 8. So now we're going crazy on the sideline. All right. I mean, it's a moment that, you know, you always pray for. When you do this, when you do it long enough and you're waiting for your opportunity, these are the moments that you look back on. This meant so much more than just we missed opportunities to run away with that ball game. And that was a well-coached and well-played team. They were a darn good team. But we missed some moments to break it open now. But I wouldn't change that for anything because of what I'm telling you right now. So we kick the ball off. They get the ball back. Now I start going through my process of, okay, let me bring in my dime defense. Let me take a linebacker out. You know, they're going to have to sell the ball. Now, this is a ball control offense. You know, they're going to play the analytics, man. They're going to take what you are giving them. And so if it's 2nd and 5, they're going to take 5. They're going to get the first down. You know, they're not going to take a shot right now. They're going to get the first down. So it got to, they ended up making a 4th down conversion. First down comes, you know, they pick up 5. It's 2nd and 5. They call timeout. You know, they weren't, their clock management at the end, towards the end, I was like, man, you could tell they have been blowing everybody out. They were not used to having to run a offense down the field and finish off with a touchdown. So they called timeout. And I called my guy over. You know, he's the last one to come walking over, Jalen Mayo. And I kind of see him like with a little limp. But Mayo has this thing about him, man, where we always talk about what they're looking at in the press box, you know, how they're looking down and they're analyzing. If they're us, they're analyzing, trying to find a weakness, you know. And Mayo always had this thing, man. He was like a chameleon, man. He'd make you feel like something's wrong with them. It would appear like something was wrong with the man, and then he will blow up on you. So Mayo kind of comes lingering over, you know, limping over. And so I kind of cleared the way and I said, hey man, I need you. I told the boys what we're going to do. And he's the last one over. I said, I need you though. So I moved him from safety to corner. And I said, but listen, I don't care where number 18 goes. He's their tight end, 6'4", about 240. He is a grown man. The best inside linebacker tight end we've seen all year. Stowers, that kid from LCA.
Stowers, yep.
So I said, I don't care where 18 goes. I don't care where Stowers goes, man. You follow him. So they moved him to the number 1 receiver. And I said, We got them. I knew right then because they were going to run a hitch. And I told Mayo, we were breaking it down based off of if he's a number 2 receiver, let's process through this. If he's a number 3 receiver, let's process through that. If he's number 1, they're going for the sticks. So Mayo hits that, all of a sudden that limp changed to a trot. I said, here you go, boy.
That was it. Yes, sir.
I said, if you throw to this cat, you got problems, man. and Mayo started skating off the line when the ball snapped, man. The quarterback looked left and he came back to his right to their sideline late. And Mayo's processing as a defensive back. I'm the DB coach, and we work through hand and foot, body language, high hat, low hats to get to our read, and we read through. And Mayo's processing through. He walked me through his process, which was spot on from what he's taught. Mayo breaks on that thing, and I mean, it was so clean. I couldn't believe it was like slow motion watching him. And I'm like, if the quarterback throws this ball, it's over. And here he goes. And he breaks on that thing, man. And I'm telling you, it's like I feel like Hollywood couldn't have written a better script than what played out on that Saturday, man. So we win. Game's over, right? We get the ball back, and I'm in a state of mind where I'm like, listen, man, I know the game's over. We just got to kneel it now. Let's get in the victory formation. But I call timeout. I said, we're going to make sure that everything is done right.
Yeah, you know where everybody is and everything.
Timeout, man. And I said, okay, they're not going to call timeout after this. They had a couple that they could blow, but, they would only prolong the inevitable. So, we get back on it. Mark takes the knee. And at that moment, man, my mom started rushing through my head.
Yep.
That breakdown that I gave to those seniors and those kids and who were seniors now, they were freshmen at the time, that 18 season, that breakdown with, how we worked hard and you guys were deserving. So look at me. And then, being the first one to win it as a captain and then the first one to lose, all these different emotions, thinking about my coaches and their sacrifices from their family, thinking about myself and my sacrifices from my family, thinking about these kids, man, and their sacrifices and, their endurance and their belief all year. And they set out to accomplish something, and they wouldn't take no for an answer, even after people doubted us after the Oscar Smith game, thinking about all these different things coming into play, thinking about the community who, stood behind us all year, and has stood behind us, have been standing behind us since day one, even since I've taken over, and through the letdowns of not winning, thinking about all those different things, man, it was such a relief, but a release. You know what I mean? It was just an amazing release to be able to, because it's one thing being a head coach of a program that you come and you turn around. It's another thing being a head coach of a program that you walk into a situation where the greatness is already in place.
That's right.
You got to find a way to not be complacent. You got to find a way to get it done on your end, but it's been done before. The footprints have proven that. So, man, it was so gorgeous, man. It was such an amazing feeling.
I was happy for you guys too, man. And again, it's so close. I guess it's probably sweeter now that you got it the way you did, considering all the chances you had before. So that was amazing. Let me ask you this before I get to the as I call the trick questions at the end. But where do you go from here, Coach? You got your title as a coach. I know at first you said that you had no idea that you wanted to be a head coach, but now that you are, what's your ultimate goal? I mean, you want to keep coaching high school, eventually you want to go to the college level? I mean, what's your ultimate goal in terms of coaching?
It's crazy, man. For so many years, man, I've been getting opportunities to take that step up. I've had head coaches reach out to me from respective college programs. I've had assistants inform me that opportunities are there, man. And I always said, man, it's got to be right all the way around. It's got to be right for my family. It's got to be right for me. It's got to be right for my family at the time. That is hand to hand a must. And it was always hard outside of it being right for my family. Yes or no. Okay, yes, you can move on. No, let's stay in place. It was always hard just thinking about that program, man. That blue and gold just weighs so heavy, man, like it does so many that have come through there. So, right now, man, I'm all in to winning this thing again, man. We start this thing off, and tomorrow when we get up in there, our focus is this 2022 season. We're going to celebrate these 2020 this 2021 season with these seniors, but our focus is 2022, and these kids are hungry, and our expectations are higher. And I'm all in, man. I'm all in. And like I said, I'm big on God ordering your steps, man.
Yep,
and when he's ready for you, you know
when it's time to go.
doing it the right way, which, I try to, I believe I do. So I'm a Phoebus Phantom, man, and I'm all in for this upcoming season, ready to get this show on the road this off season and prep these boys to go and defend the mountaintop.
That's what it's about. And it's interesting because for the first time I can remember, you guys were the underdog in that state championship game. Everybody was talking about all these Division I players those guys had, and it was just great to see you bring that title back to Phoebus, man. It was just amazing. I'm just so glad that I was around to see it. But I got something called Keeping It Real. It's some quick hitters, some questions. You just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
Let's go.
What does Coach Blunt have in his playlist? What does he like to listen to either before a game, during a game, not during a game, but before a game or after a game or at home?
Jay-Z, man, and I'm a real big reggae fan, man.
Reggae, really? Okay.
I'm more reggae hard, man. You got artists like Vado, Clientele,
okay.
Cartel. I mean, yeah, I'm big on those guys, man. So, I'm real big with mellowing myself out, and I'm a huge Jay-Z fan.
Oh yeah, Jay-Z is my guy. All right, man. Top 5 players, in your opinion, don't have to be the best ever, but just in your opinion, top 5 players to ever come from the PD.
To ever come from the PD. I mean, you okay, so I got to think during my time frame, if I'm doing this thing right, people that I was able to lay eyes on, because it's, but it's so many, man. I mean, you got to say your Ronald Curry, you got to say your Allen Iverson, you must say a Michael Vick, you cannot leave out an Antoine Womack.
Oh, he was a man.
Iverson, Vick, Womack, Curry. So many, man.
And that's what I tell people. It's like if you leave some players off, it's not disrespecting them. It's just the greatness of so many people from here.
There's so many great ones to come through. Amar Hawkins,
oh man, he was a beast too.
Quillis from Kickitan, and there's so many great Kickitan warriors that have a name. So many other great Phantoms that have a name, man. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not doing this thing any justice.
It's tough, man. It's tough. That's why I say this is
recent day. These young guys coming through, man. So many, they're right. There's so many of them right there at the top.
Because I at first when I was going through this, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna say top 5 Phoebus. Because that's so many greats too. You know what I mean? I mean,
so many.
Both the DBs, you got Tyree Lees, you got all of them, bro, coming through there.
Tyree Lee is right there on the top of my list as far as
he was one of my favorites, man.
Running backs to ever come through Phoebus High School.
Man. I mean, I used to love watching him play.
People love it for me to make that argument about best running backs to come through. They would hate to hear that. Excuse me, because I mean you won't forget your Walmacks. I played with one and Travis McWright, but
Walmack, you're right, bro. Yep.
Tyree Lee, man. Listen, man. The thing that made him so special was this kid didn't just do what he did on offense with only, getting fewer to no touches a game. I mean, he could have ran away with the record, but he also started at free safety.
Man.
He was our punt return, kick returner. This kid didn't leave the field, is what I'm trying to say. And there have been some great ones to come through that didn't do all of that. Guy like Curry, he did, Yep. Curry played both sides of the ball and was a specialty guy, Tyree Lee, man, for Phoebus High School. He's another one of those guys that was a specialty guy that did it all.
I love it.
Swiss Army knife, man.
All right. Besides winning the title, the proudest moment of your career besides winning a title?
As being a
coach,
or an assistant coach?
Head coach.
Head coach. Outside of winning, I'll tell you, anytime we get an opportunity, seeing all of my seniors cross that stage, yep. Those are always proud moments, man. When those kids coming from this environment and knowing what these kids are faced with day to day, and to see those guys cross that stage, man, with their diploma and have an opportunity to go and into their respective career fields, whether it's continuing their education, military, trade, man, you have to love it, man, because you're seeing the next group, the next generation, right in front of your very eyes, man, and you played a role in that, man, and it's humbling because that's a part of my legacy. That's the important part of my legacy that I want to be remembered by how important it was for those kids, for not just their next 4 years. Signing that NLI is important, and that's beautiful. But man, when you start thinking about if you're able to impact them 40 years from now, if they can reflect back and remember Coach Blunt, and the little that I was able to pour into them, man, that's the legacy right there.
That's what it's about. I mean, we talked about wins and losses earlier, 19 losses, but like you said, when they cross that stage, that just eliminates everything, Coach. What you've done to be instrumental in their life. That's amazing. All right, best advice you received from any coach or mentor?
Do it your way. When it's all said and done, they can go, the administration, the division, the powers that be can make a decision to go in whatever direction they want to go in, and that can be minus you. So whenever you go out, you make sure you go out with no regrets. Do it your way.
That's the best way to say it. Last question for you. Give me your best Bill D story, one that you can share. I mean, just something that comes to mind that nobody ever knew.
So Coach D was a stickler with routine, man.
Okay.
All right. And he was very big on sticking to it, superstitious, maybe, or, it's just a disciplinary piece within him that he wanted to do things a certain way, dotting every I, crossing every T. So my senior year, we're on a roll, man. We're getting ready for a big opponent. And I want to say we're getting ready for the first matchup against Hampton High School. And so we had a tradition right after our pregame practice, which is the practice before game day, we would eat dinner together. Okay. So we have our pregame practice. All right. We'll break bread together. Okay. Coach D, that year, we were big on Whoppers. Like I said, whatever we started with, whatever was working, we were going to stick with. We would always order Whoppers, right? So you come in, seniors are going to lead the way, all filling into this small little trailer right there by the tennis court, not too far from the practice field. And, straight off the field, you just hear a bunch of cleats getting up the stairs, and, you're getting ready to sit down and pray. Okay. And as you're doing it, Coach D is there. The coaches are handing you out your Whopper, right? So you understand, you get your Whopper, you got your helmet, you have your Whopper, you go sit down, your Whopper, put your Whopper down, you wait for everybody to get in, wait for Coach D to start the prayer, right? So we get up in there, and my homeboy, man, we grew up together around Fox Hill townhomes. My boy, Terrence Bellamy, man. Terrence decides, man, he's hungry, man. We still hear cleats coming up the stairs, man. And, Terrence is like, man, he's sitting right behind me too. That's what made this bad. So I'm up front, I always led the way. This is my team. That's the way I looked at it. I was the captain of that team. So I'm going to always put myself out in the front because I'm going to lead the way, right? So Terrence is sitting behind me, and I just hear chewing, man. And I mean, he's chewing so hard. I'm like, I look back, and I turned around, I shook my head. I said, this ain't going to end well.
Oh,
you just hear Coach D coming from across the trailer. What in the heck? What are you doing? God, Terrence, what is this? And he picks his sandwich up, and he threw it across the room. I looked over, I said, oh my goodness. So I'm laughing hysterically. I am laughing so hard that the coaches are trying not to laugh. Everyone else is quiet because it's like, you don't do that. The Coach D has just made a statement. You better shut up. I'm laughing. His captain is laughing. So everybody else is kind of looking at me like, what is he doing? I can't stop laughing, right? So Coach D grabs Terrence another Whopper, right? And then he throws it, he smashes it down on his desk, and you just see his hands and digging the elbow grease into it to smash and flatten that Whopper as much as he could. I am crying, laughing. Coach D starts, and he is pissed, and he has this frustrated giggle but redirection voice in him. He's kind of giggling because I won't stop laughing. He's like, Jeremy, shut the heck up, and I can't stop laughing. And so, everybody else at that point, when they kind of heard the giggle and the release, they all started laughing, man. And then we just all lost it up in there. We prayed, and I looked back over my shoulder, and I'm looking at my teammate eat a burger that's flattened like this. I don't even know how.
You still got the prayer in, though. You still got the prayer in.
You got that prayer in, dog. We all straighten up for that prayer, man. But I'm tell you what, man, we talk about that to this day, man. Those guys that were in that room on that day, and everybody remembers how hard I was laughing, and they saw a different side of Coach D, because usually he would lose it on guys because to him, you're stepping out of line. Now you're challenging me. Me laughing is stepping out of line at that moment. But he has so much love and respect for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
You saw the human side of him. You know, that caring. He was a loving guy, man. I mean, he just loved to know it, man. But I'm gonna tell you, man, it was a funny moment. I'll never forget it. I'll be 80 if I'm fortunate enough and blessed enough to reach that. You know, those later years, man. Sitting on the porch, I'm sure if any of my teammates were out there together, we would be laughing about Terrence Bellamy eating that
flat Whopper. Man, Coach, this has been great, man. You know how much respect I have for you, man. I really appreciate you hopping on, man. I know you got a lot of things going on, you know, getting ready for practice coming up, off-season workouts, but man, I appreciate you, Coach, and you know, congratulations with all your success. And I'm gonna definitely be following you, and I'm gonna let you know when this post. We're gonna have it all over social media. I'm gonna tag you. We're gonna put this out. I want everybody to hear this story, man. I really appreciate you coming on, though, man.
Oh man, it was a pleasure, man. I truly enjoyed this, man. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yes, sir, man. So, like I said, man, keep in touch, man, and take it easy, man. I'll catch you down the road.
All right, man. Hey, same to you, man. Best of luck to you.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Forward, man.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you, Coach. Thanks, man.
This episode is sponsored by La Vida Agency. Protect, Prepare, Plan.